The question two asks us to help Jake to minimize his cost to transfer his holdings in Japanese market to US currency. And because of there's a collapse in Japanese market, Indonesian and Malaysian economic is highly affected by this. So he needs to transfer all his holdings in these three markets back to US currency and maybe invest them all into US bonds. The problem here is that he cannot directly transfer it into US currency because there's transaction limits on cash flow. Also, there's different cost between transaction cost between different currencies. So he wants to minimize the transaction cost and then make the most investment into US bonds. For part A, the formulation of minimum cost flow function, we first need to see how much his holding is worth in US currency. And after calculation, I get $9.6 million of Japanese holding, which is in yen, and rupees worth $1.68 million, and ringgit, which is Malaysian currency, worth is $5.6 million. And the decision variable I set is Xij, which represents the cash flow from currency I to currency J. The cost percentage is showing in table 2, and that's the transaction cost percentage on every unit of cash flow. And the objective function is to minimize the cost, which is the cost percentage times the corresponding cash flow. And the constraint here is it's provided in table 3. I think the number is too large, so I transfer into a smaller number, which is divided by 1000. And then I create a dummy node as a supply node, which will transfer 1.6 to yen, 9.6 to yen, 1.68 to rupees, and 5.6 to ringgit. Also, the transshipment currency, which are yen, rupees, ringgit, Canadian dollars, euro, pound, peso, and the demand node is the US dollars. It will receive a total of $16.88 million. And for part B, for here is my code for part B. So so the 0 here means there's no cost from the dummy variable supply node to the original yen, rupees, and the ringgits. And this is the maximum transaction limit. And it's shown here that this is a cost, and the UB means the transaction limits. And I plug in all the numbers that I have in I divided by 1000 from table 3, and there's no transaction limits from Canadian to US, and the Canadian to euro to everything here. I set it to a really large number. That means that there's no transaction limits. And then I run the code on this. So this is the minimum transaction cost in $1 million, and this is the cash flow in from one currency I to currency J. That is 2 million from yen to US, Canadian, euro, and pound to pound, and 1.6 from yen to peso. And this is 0.2 from rupees to US to Canadian and to peso. And this is 1 million from rupees to euro, and this is 80,000 from rupee to pound. And this is 1.1 million from ringgit to US dollars, and this is 2.5 from ringgit to euro, 1 million from ringgit to pound, and this is from ringgit to peso. This is 2.2 million from Canadian dollars to US, 5.5 million from euro to US, 3.08 million from pound to US, and 2.8 from a peso to US, representatively. And it also asks us how much money Jake has to have to invest in US bond. That is the total of $16.88 million minus the cost here. So he got this 16,796,006 to 620 to invest it in US bonds. And for part C, it asks us that if there's no transaction limits, how much how will the transaction cost be? So it means that we set these constraints that we get from table 3 to a really large number that you basically saying there is no constraints here. So as you see, I set it up like this and I run this code. So this is the new cost. As you can see, there is a reduction in this transaction cost. Also, there's a difference between this one and the previous cash flow plan. So in this, Jake should convert equivalent of 9.6 million from yen to pound and then to US dollars. And he should convert the equivalent of 1.68 million from rupees to Canadian and then to US dollars. Finally, he should convert the equivalent of 5 million from ringgit to euro and then to US dollars. So without the transaction limits, the minimum cost reduced to 67,480. And for part D, it says that because of the World Trade Organization's forbidding transaction limits, the Indonesian government needs to protect their currency. They introduced a new tax that increased their transaction cost by 500%. That means you need to change the cost here by times 6, as you can see from D. So this is the new cost percentage that I've changed. And we can run this. So part D. Wait, got it wrong. So where's part D? And this CSD. So as you can see, as the increase of this part, the cost, the minimum cost is increased also, like comparing to part B, part C. So the new cost is 96,000 680, and but the cash flow is the same as part C.